It's the lounge. It's a Sunday. It's 2:07. It's warm out. It feels like it's April, but it's the middle of February. Marcus Traxler is here. A cast of one may come as well. Noted Todd Stussy Piss Cup collector Nathan Stacken.
One and one only.
May join the program. Start with basketball and start with local regional basketball. The Summit League tournament, 2 weeks away. Very exciting. We'll have one more show next week, and we'll have our annual Buffalo Wild Wings podcast on a Saturday or a Sunday, which will.
Looking forward to our waitress to be named, and I think it's going to be a good time.
Gotta say, when myself, Charlie, and Mr. Schottenkirk were there, when was that? Late December. Probably had the best waitress we ever had there.
Really?
Which isn't saying much, but it was good. It was good. Mike Dahm had a good game yesterday. He had his best game yesterday. 50.
Okay.
Challenge that point, please. Yes. 51 points. Huh?
With what?
Nothing. 51 points. 15 rebounds. First player since 96 to have done that. I did email Sports Reference site. Has a lot of good things. Their college basketball is lacking. Only goes back to the 2010 season. And they got back to me today. And they said there was one other guy who put up a 50 and 10 in the last 20-some years. So even if you drop it down, not to 51 and 15, but just 50 and 10, there's only been 3 guys in the past 21-plus years to do that. So what he did against IPFW, 97-89 victory, much needed win. They were pretty much in already, but seeding-wise, now they
clinched it.
They clinched it.
Secured a spot in the Summit League tournament. That's important.
I'm not sure what has happened to Oral Roberts. Why they are.
Mark Gottfried got fired this week mid-season. He's going to coach out the rest of the year. But as far as I'm concerned, Scott Sutton probably deserving of a mid-season firing.
Wow.
I don't know how they're 8-21. I mean, obviously they're not good, but 8 wins. I mean, 21 losses at this point. That's amazing.
What are you talking about? Washington or Oral Roberts?
Yeah, no kidding.
Jesus. So the SDSU men, they win a game. And now instead of talking, are they making it? We're talking, maybe they could be the 5 seed or the 4 seed and play Fort Wayne again or Omaha again. They're 7 and 8, half game back of the 4 seed. They've got a 1-game cushion for the 7 or the 8. Ideally, where would you want to finish if you were them? And who do you want to play? Perfect scenario. That's realistic. I want to play this team on this day with this seed. And why?
I think that now that's in play, I mean, they're 7 and 8, Fort Wayne 7 and 7, Omaha 7 and 7. So that's what brings kind of the number 4 seed into play, 5 seed into play.
Like 4 or 5 is the same base. Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Right. They could play Fort Wayne again in that 4 or 5 game on Sunday. If I'm SDSU, I think that's where I want to be. You play a team you've already played twice. I realize Fort Wayne definitely could beat them, but there's something about Omaha that I'm not. I mean, I just don't think that's a terrific matchup for SDSU. Any team that can score in bunches is going to be a problem for them because they can't defend anybody. So I think that would be the best spot. And then ideally, I think you've already beaten USD once this year, so you want them to get the 1. You're playing them on Monday if you win, and then you face whoever you can in the championship. But
so that is your scenario right there.
Is yours any different?
No, he wanted to. As we've said, he wanted to avoid Fargo to the championship. I think they can beat any team up until then. And they can also lose any. They can lose any team up until then. They're very inconsistent. The defense is terrible. Offense looks to be very good. So you're gonna have to be. They're gonna have to play a team where they can score 80+ points. Because if they don't score 80 points, similar to Mitchell basketball, if they don't score 20, they're not gonna win. If SDSU doesn't score at least 80, 85, it's hard for me to picture them holding any team, Denver included, with the change of coach notwithstanding. I think they're giving up 80 points at any game that they play. So
it's also interesting that right now they're slotted against Denver. They probably could find a way to win that
and
game.
They play Denver coming up here.
Teams in the
conference coming up to wrap up the regular season. So possibly it's seems like it happens more often than you would think. Teams playing back-to-back games.
Put that in the book of myths.
Myths. SDSU played Oral Roberts last year. Played him in the first game of the tournament last year, and should have lost by all accounts. On the women's side, I got a jumble at the top. SDSU women outside looking in of a day off on a Sunday. So they've done that before. They've been a 3 seed before and won the deal. I think this is the best 4 teams that have ever been in the Summit League as long as I've been following it. Because Western, USD, SDSU, and IUPUI all seem to be legitimate teams. In the past, you've had SDSU and somebody else. And sometimes even that somebody else has not even made the conference championship. Would you say not only are there 3 teams, but there are 4 capable teams here of being competitive to reach the final?
I would say 3, and I would just give IUPUI the benefit of the doubt. They've shown in the tournament before, regardless of what kind of regular season they have, that they're capable of winning a game or 2. So that's kind of what jumps out to me. I haven't seen them specifically. I know they beat SDSU at home, and that's good. That shows that you're at least decent enough. Western's good, and obviously USD is pretty much rolled for a lot of the season. So it's interesting.
So you only have 3 teams.
I wouldn't put IUPUI in the same category as SDSU, USD, and Western.
All right.
So.
And USD is the favorite now for the men to get that 1 seed because of the tiebreaker. Both them, North Dakota State, have 2 games left. On the women's side, do you have a favorite there as far as a team that should win that conference there between Western and USD?
I haven't looked at the standings. I know SDSU came back.
Just take a gander at the standings.
Who has the tiebreaker between Western and USD? Anybody know?
IUPUI's got the tiebreaker. Let's see. Women's basketball, USD, Western, they're tied right now.
Maybe USD still has to go to Western because Western killed them in Vermillion.
The season wraps up for them next week at Western Illinois, and USD is also at IUPUI. So
that's a problem. So Western's probably got the edge there.
You can't count IUPUI out. They're only a game back of first in that 4 seed. There's a definite. Every team that's above 500 in conference is a 4 or better. Every team under 500 is worse than a 4. IUPUI, they're definitely, I think, in the mix for improvement on a 4 seed since they do play USD next week, and they're only game back of that. And at Western is probably where we decide a lot of things. Western Illinois, they play Fort Wayne, so that's a win right there. So I would say Western would be looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, I think I was kind of banking on USD probably being the top team here as far as getting the number 1 seed. It's interesting if you think about if it ends up being SDSU USD in the semis. That's a pretty big game. That's always your conference championship, and you're playing in the semis. So I would say the winner of that game, whenever they meet, semifinals, finals, will be the team that wins the title.
There is a scenario here. Let's see. We could have a hell of a tiebreaker for the women. Western, say Western wins out. They win your conference at 13-3. We'll give them the victory over USD. Then I think what happens there is you would have the South Dakotas and IUPUI all tied at 12-4. All tied at 12-4. For this to happen, you need SDSU to win their final game, which will happen. And you need IUPUI to win their 2 final games. And you need USD to split their final 2 games.
Which is definitely doable.
Yeah, because, USD, they have the toughest schedule by far. They play the 2 best teams not named South Dakota State, both on the road. So maybe they lose both of them, win both of them, split. I'd say they split. So I think the big game, if IUPUI can beat USD next week, I think it's would be a Wednesday night game. If they can do that, I think we're looking at a 12-4, a 12-4 three-way tie, and I'd say it's pretty significant. You get that 2 seed, 3 seed, or 4 seed, and I think based on the past, they just start at the top and go down there. So you would look first, at Western Illinois is what you would look at to see they're the top team, who beat them, who lost to them. IUPUI, they lost both, so that would they would be out. South Dakota State, they split with them. And they would sweep. So it looks like under this scenario, if this is accurate, I think SDSU would be the 2 seed because they're the only team to have beaten Western Illinois. Western Illinois would have beaten both teams, the other team. So
twice.
Yeah, they swept them and they split with SDSU. So according to that, if that is the tiebreaker, I think SDSU is your 1 seed or your 2 seed.
That would be, that'd be fairly significant.
I think
it's, that's what they want. They want the bye or the extra day off. So I think, it's interesting. I think we're going to have maybe as good a women's tournament as we've had, at least from the semifinals on. And we've had a lot of good ones. So I think it'll be really interesting. I would, provided they don't meet in the semifinals, I still would just, pencil down USD, SDSU because those have been the teams. There's no reason those won't be the teams of this tournament.
You said they want the bye. They want the bye, or they are a bye, or both.
They're both. They are a bye.
They are a bye.
Actually, I don't know if they are. I would think they're a bye. I don't know who's picking against them in this tournament, but yeah.
Would a contingent in the southeastern part of the state, you think, not pick them?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Here's my thing: is that USD's beat them one time in the tournament.
Yeah, and they played every year. They play every year in the tournament.
They play every year, and I realize that at some point
they'll beat them again.
USD's going to win their share of these games, but usually they don't. And USD's had the best player in the conference before, and it seems like SDSU usually loses these games out. And not saying that's the way it always will be, but I don't know how you don't give them the edge. It's when they do it over and over and over again. You'd be a fool to pick against them.
I was very surprised, I guess, looking at the bracketology that they were a projected 11 seed. Because I think if they're...
Well, I think it's interesting. Doesn't that sort of speak to them? They're not even the number 1 team in the conference. And they still put them in for the automatic bid because...
RPI-wise,
probably going to be the ones to win the league.
Yeah, our RPI-wise are the best, and if you follow it, they are the favorite to win. And I think this would be by far their best seed they've ever gotten outside of the first tournament they went to. They were a 7 seed, and they lost 2 games all regular season. So if they're 12 seed or better, then that's definite. I expect them to win that game. They're not.
And the other aspect to that is that most years they play a little bit more of a, I don't know what you would call it, but there's a lot of names on their schedule.
Yep.
This year it seemed like it was maybe a little less of that, but I mean pretty much every team they played was pretty solid. The only one that wasn't was Arkansas Pine Bluff, and I think they were in the tournament last year. They just happened to be terrible this season. So I just think it's interesting how that unfolds. SDSU is going to test themselves. Maybe that's just them getting the benefit of the doubt, or maybe it's like the tournament kind of works. You start looking at the bottom leagues and you work your way up.
Mm-hmm.
From 16 upward, and you're like, well, SDSU would be an 11 in that scenario, or maybe USD would be too. I don't know. I'm guessing they'd probably be like a 13, but it's a good situation for SDSU to be in, just because they've bought a lot of equity in the past, I think. And if they're an 11, I think you have to like them in that situation. And considering everything they've gone through this year, that's a good spot to be in.
And they would avoid the home team until that second round, which is.
I mean that team's not a 2. It's a 3.
Yeah.
And really last year's scenario was a great scenario to be in. I mean now you're playing a 5 and then a 4. I think if you're going to play a 6 and you've got a little bit better chance of winning that first game, I think you're willing to take your chances against a top 12, top 15 team.
Would you take that over what they had last year with the 4 and the 5?
Well, no. I mean, I think the 12 is a more advantageous position to advance, because the 3 team is going to be tougher. I don't know who the 3s are this year, but I'm willing to bet they're basically the blue bloods of women's college basketball that aren't, Connecticut, Baylor, and South Carolina, Notre Dame. So it's, I think it's definitely going to be a challenge, but you win that game and put yourself in that situation, and I think you take your chances.
The one I saw had them play in Michigan as a 6.
Yeah.
And then they would play Oregon State again, which they
played them. I mean,
they played them.
Only a couple years ago.
Yeah,
so
first half was close, second half not as close. So the 37 RPI around there for the women. They beat Iowa. Iowa 16-10. They're right around the tournament. They beat George Washington. They beat Creighton. Creighton's by far their best win. Those are their 3 best wins. They lost at Oklahoma. That would have been a great win. Oral Roberts beat Oklahoma somehow. Green Bay would have been a good win. Obviously, Louisville did not go well at all. And it helps. I mean, before you had one team in the Summit League besides SDSU, which was maybe a top 100 team, but now you have 4 of those teams. USD is at 62 RPI-wise. IUPUI close behind at 66. Western is at 80. So the bottom of the league is as bad as it's ever been, but the top of the league is as good as it's ever been. And I think it has shown RPI-wise that if you can play 6 to 8 games in your conference against teams in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that RPI is going to stay for SDSU above 50. And then if we do want to get into the argument of should they lose, do they get an at-large? They won't. They're an 11 right now. They've lost too many games, in my opinion. They're 20-7. They'd be with 8 losses, which is probably about 3 or 4 too many. Like if they would have.
The other part of that is, to me, they can lose all the games they won against the Louisvilles and the Oklahomas. I don't think anybody would hold those against them. You can't lose as many games as they've lost in the conference. You maybe get 1 or 2 losses at max, and they've lost 4. So that's too many.
We discussed thoroughly the situation last year, and
I'm willing to guarantee it comes up again. And it will be
for USD again.
I mean, I don't know if it will be for USD. I mean, if it comes up for SDSU and they're a top 45 RPI team, I guess the argument's a little bit more valid. USD was 60 last year?
Yeah, they were 62, pretty much the same as they were last year. Strength of schedule right around 200 at 199. I mean, SDSU is 37 right now. RPI strength of schedule 78.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I my point is that we can have the discussion, but to me it would be it doesn't make any sense. I think SDSU's kind of made its bed with the way this conference season's gone, and that's just how it has to be. I mean, we can argue about it, but it's just not going to change, and it shouldn't change. They shouldn't get in that situation. I don't think. It's they kind of know what the threshold is to maybe get an at-large, and it's just not going to happen with eight losses, like you said. The one point I would like to make with you, sort of pointing out the strength of the top of the conference is that, let's say SDSU doesn't get in, I think it benefits a USD. It benefits a Western Illinois. And they're not going to win the game, but they're Western's maybe not a 15. They might be a 14. And likewise with USD, who was a 15 the first time they got in and got killed by Stanford, they'd at least have a chance to be maybe a 13 this time around. So, the quality of the league helps a little bit.
And USD, comparing them this year to last year, I don't see a whole lot of difference, RPI, strength of schedule-wise. And their non-conference this year does not look very good at all. I don't even know what you would say. Their best win is Northern Illinois, the only top 100 team they played all non-conference season.
I believe that was a neutral court game. They didn't go on the road and play anybody and beat them. So that's I wasn't impressed with their non-conference schedule at all. And the one thing I would say about USD, and I don't have the schedule in front of me, but they'll play the NAIA team for the free home game. And the easy win, and I think I don't think you can take yourself very seriously in the strength of schedule argument.
No, the strength, there's a 120 spot difference in strength of schedule between the two schools.
And, if you can't, to me, you just can't, at the end of the year, you can't say, well, we should be in. You can't play those games. It doesn't matter if you win them, lose them, whatever. You need to take those two home games and go play two games on the road against somebody difficult. And until you're doing that, I don't think you have much of a leg to stand on.
And the argument for your SDSU would be wins against Iowa, Creighton, George Washington, all top 50 teams.
Right.
3 wins against the top 50. And I don't think the other school had any of those last year. I don't even know if I'm pretty sure they didn't even play a top 50 school in the non-conference last year, let alone win 3 times against them. So
we talked about it last year after they won the WNIT. All their best wins were in the WNIT.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have whatever their best win was. It was replaced by the WNIT run. That's why I laughed and probably cried a little with the people that at the end of the tournament, said, well, look at where their RPI is now. It just shows that they should have been in the tournament. It doesn't show anything. And winning those 6 games didn't show anything either, but I digress.
I think, as we've mentioned, Western is the favorite to win the conference, which means they would automatically get into the NIT if they don't win the conference. And it would be interesting to see, if where USD, what South Dakota school doesn't win the conference, if they get in the NIT, which I assume they would. So you'd have 2 Summit League teams, which got to be a first in the NIT.
Yeah, but I would say I hear people saying, "Well, that's good for the league." I'm gonna throw up.
I'd say it's not bad, especially if you've got one of these teams that can make that fun.
I would definitely wouldn't be putting it in the media notes saying, "Well, the Summit League had."
Well,
in the WNIT.
Like if you're the Big Ten, you're not doing that, but if you're the Summit League, and
I don't think the Summit League should do it either. To me, it's why are you proud of that? I would rather use the thing about the conference RPI if you want to talk about the league as a whole or whatever. I don't think saying you're going to have a team or 2 in the WNIT is something real awesome. But
they will be excited about it.
Well, I'm sure they will, and I'm here with the preemptive strike to say that that's done.
Conference RPI, folks. Let's take a gander. They're usually just outside the top 10, 12, 13, 14. And right now in the Summit League, according to this, would be 11, which would be very good. They would be fourth or fifth best mid-major conference this year. So a banner year for the Summit League. Just don't advertise alcohol in that arena. You can say it on the radio, Bud Light postgame show, but do not show it in the arena. 2 weeks away from that.
You can sell as much of it as you want
Yes,
to.
sell it, make some money, but goddamn if there's a sign, that can't happen. We'll know the bracket next week, and we'll break down that bracket thoroughly next week. And usually we know matchups, but right now, fair to say we don't know. We don't feel confident in saying anything at this point. 1 through 4.
You're talking about Scott Sutton's or Oral Roberts' team. They could be in there if they win a game here at the end. So we'll see.
We will see. Very exciting. Because I thought, last year was hard to top because you had the 2 great comebacks. That Summer League tournament last year was maybe the best one. Probably was the best one. And this year, hopefully, there's more of the same right there. One final point on the men's side. I can bring this up again when we have more folk here next week. The favorite usually wins on the men's side. There's not a whole, Oakland, they won their couple. SDSU won a couple when they were supposed to. Maybe one year.
If you're the 2 or the did SDSU win it as a 3?
I'm not sure. The one year they won, the first year when Oral Roberts lost, that was probably a year early for SDSU.
And they were the 2.
Yeah. So outside, those top 2 seed, USDS, NDSU, I got NDSU as a pretty heavy favorite. We've never seen SDSU as a seed this low and have the best player.
Yeah.
So they've been this low before. They pulled off an upset before against Oral Roberts back in 2009. But besides that, they've always been at least a 4 seed, 5 seed. But they've never had the best player like this and be this low. So it's a very interesting storyline of can one player lead a 6 seed to the final.
The fact that Western Illinois almost beat NDSU yesterday, played them in double time in Fargo, and Western's currently the 8, NDSU's the 1. We've just seen a bunch of weird results this year, so I'm on record as saying I'd like to see the Summit play in the first 4 this year and have a 16 seed. So I want
that would be SDSU.
They would be a 16. This might be the year where we see some shit at the Summit League tournament, and I'd love that. I'd love to see a 6 or a 7. Fort Wayne 5. They could win it if they have their crap together. So I'm excited for this because I think we could see some weird stuff, especially on the weekend where might see some teams go down.
You said you want to see some shit. We saw some shit last year. That's all I know. We saw some shit.
Yeah, those were still the top seeds winning.
Yes.
That wasn't
some
upset. Right. Those were great games.
They were in-game upsets. Before, you're like, yeah, South Dakota State's going to win. 5 minutes left. Nope, they're not going to win. And then 20 minutes later, they won again.
They won.
I was thinking, since I think going into the show we expected the women not to be a top 2 seed, but after this, I kind of expect them to be the 2 seed. And the men, we don't quite know yet. They could, both teams could play on Sunday. The women might play on Saturday. I just don't know where the Chinese buffet fits in. It's usually Sunday.
It's tough because if they're in that 4 or 5 game and that game starts at 6 on Sunday,
I don't want to miss it. So I'm tentatively China buffet might be pushed up today to that Saturday afternoon.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
So that's not foreseen, but sources close to the situation say maybe a Saturday buffet would be better.
Well, and you know what? They sometimes refer to it as a fluid situation. This would qualify.
It is very fluid.
This is fluid.
It is very fluid. Something that's also fluid, the big boy college basketball. Lots of movement. The Big Ten still looks like garbage. Wisconsin lost to Northwestern this week. They beat Maryland on a Sunday, so back on track for Wisconsin. Carolina, they look pretty good right now. They may be sniffing a 1 seed if they can win that ACC tournament. The Big 12 just continues to be just ridiculous in a bad way, with Baylor and West Virginia and Kansas holding leads, not holding leads, coming back for victories you wouldn't expect. What's getting your attention here 4 weeks out?
It's the Big 12, and just how they can't seem to figure out what they're doing. I mean, yeah, you have all this stuff. Kansas is still going to win the regular season. They're probably still going to be
A 1
seed, but 2. It's just like the more things change, the more things stay the same with that league. I like Gonzaga. I think they're interesting. It still seems like nobody's talking about them. I mean, right? They're going to be a 1, right? I mean, at this point,
I don't think they're losing. And if they're even if they lost once, I still think they should be a 1 seed.
Villanova, you got them as a 1?
Yeah. I'd say they got a pretty good chance of being the number 1 overall seed.
And then, as it stands right now, you've got Arizona, UCLA, Oregon piled up top of the AP poll. I really think only one of those teams is probably going to do any damage in March, right? So, people have been talking Oregon, sleeper Final Four. Arizona, do you trust them? UCLA's fun as hell to watch. I think that's somewhat captivating. As usual, depends on the bracket, the draw. But I'm like you, UNC looking good right now.
I think they're in line for that 1 seed. Baylor's not going to be a 1 seed. They lost 4-6. 2 of those to Kansas. Should have won at least one of them. You would hope, if not both of them. I think Carolina is looking good to be that 1 seed. And when they're good, I usually pick them because that's just the team I like. So.
That's true. We talk a lot about the teal and the purple and stuff like that, but Carolina blue. I mean, Carolina blue, you can't knock it. It's quality. That's black though? That's Carolina blue.
It's a big show, Marcus. It's a big show. I got to wear my black.
Okay, I understand.
So are they going to wear black for all 3 games? Two games or Summit League?
If they're a 5 or worse, they're going to be pretty much the road team in each game. So looking forward to that. That'll be terrible.
Dark blue numbers on black uniforms. That's a good combination for.
They don't have that anymore. They've got yellow numbers on black uniforms.
Show me something. I want to see these numbers. Good change. Good change. Duke, they're just getting by again. Wake Forest can't beat Duke. 2 games I want to see in these conference tournaments: Duke and Wake Forest again, because both games have been in the 90s, and both games have came down to the final seconds, and both times Duke has won. SEC tournament, I want to see Georgia, Kentucky for a 3rd time, because Georgia let them off the hook on Saturday, should have beat them, and in Brett Musburger's last game, they should have. Denny Green.
R.I.P.
To Denny Green. Yes, breaking news.
You let him off the hook. They let him off
the hook. They let him off the hook. And Georgia, there a couple weeks ago in Lexington, that was a game they should have won. Up to 10 seconds left, Monk makes a shot. So those are 2 games I want to see for a 3rd time because the first 2 games have been great. Coming up this week, Wednesday and Saturday. All the games are on Wednesday and on Saturday. Wednesday, Duke at the Qs, TCU at Kansas. By all means, Kansas should wipe the floor with TCU. TCU is a tournament team, but if this is a 6-8 point game at most, I mean, then it's just another Kansas is getting by. Maryland at Minnesota. It's a big game for Minnesota to solidify their resume. Butler is at Nova. Nova's playing great. The Ville is at Carolina. Those are the two best teams, I think, in that conference. And Oregon is at Cal. See if they trip up on the road there. Saturday, no less than 10 games of note. Florida State struggling. They're at Clemson. Carolina is at Pitt. Pitt beat Florida State yesterday. Virginia is at North Carolina State. Bite that tire. Will they do it? Doubtful.
Well, that tire's going to crush me. And I tell you what, guys, I'm going to bite it. I'll bite that damn tire.
Nobody else did. Florida is at Kentucky. Winner of that probably wins that conference regular season. Creighton is at Nova. West Virginia at TCU. I think a good chance for TCU to pick up a good win there. Baylor is at Iowa State. Baylor's reeling. Purdue at Michigan. Duke at Miami. And the game of the week, UCLA at Arizona. Good,
what a deal.
Good slate of games on Saturday and Sunday. Your normal shit of Wisconsin at Michigan State. So, any of those games you're interested in, UCLA at Arizona piques my interest. Louisville at Carolina Wednesday piques my interest. Duke at the Qs also piques my interest.
Those games are back to back there on Wednesday, so that's a nice little Wednesday evening if you want to piece that together.
I do. Bracketology.
Don't have to change the channel at all. So.
Or your pants.
Well, pants are optional, per usual.
Oh, good. Anything else going on non-basketball related? Or is it all basketball related?
We're Daytona 500 next week.
Oh, yes. I missed the deal today. The deal must have been early today.
I missed it, and I didn't care. So,
good.
Maybe watch the race next week. Yeah, that's pretty much it for now.
Pitchers and catchers are reporting. We have the World Baseball Classic in 2 weeks, which I've never cared about before. So that'll be interesting since I care a little bit about it now. March, that first weekend in March, is the NFL deadline for roster bonuses and such.
Make up your minds.
So that's 2 weeks away. Do they cut the running back? Do they restructure the deal? What do you expect?
I think it'll be cut.
Good.
I think this is, I don't know. I mean, I realize that the Vikings are used to him like posturing and all this because he does it literally every year. But at some point you cut him loose. You just say, yeah, we're done with you. You're 31 or 32 or whatever you're going to be, and we're done. We're done. You can go play in New York or Dallas or Houston or whatever the hell you're going to do. Go play for Dallas. Let me know how much playing time you get for Dallas. And, I think it would be fine if the Vikings ended up keeping him, but I just don't. I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna. He's not gonna settle for what they're willing to pay him. Somebody else will pay him closer to what he wants. That's basically the gist of it for me.
I think his tank is on empty.
Well, I realize that not many guys are going to get much done against with that offensive line from last year, but he just didn't do anything. He was hurt, so
he missed it. Pretty much, he missed an entire year. He played 2.5 games, maybe 2 games total. He played 2 games last year, coming off of a season 3 years ago now, where he played 1 game. So in 2 of the last 3 years, he's played 3 games.
When he can say whatever he wants. He can say that
I'm fresh or whatever.
Feels great, and he's defied logic and basic anatomy, all these things, science. In the comebacks from some of these injuries, but to me, it just doesn't make any sense that time's going to get him. It's just a matter of it's going to get him this season or the season after, because he's not playing until he's 35. I mean, if he is, he's not going to be any good. So, and he may have. I mean, I feel like he's probably got if I'm being honest, 800 yards in him left. And I don't know how many seasons he's going to take to get that, but that's probably all the mileage that's left, So,
I could see next year being his last. If things go a certain way and there's not a demand, and nobody's willing to pay him a certain point, or nobody's willing to make him the number one running back, I could see next year being it.
Well, it always comes down to production. I mean, they're not going to keep a guy around that's not doing anything. So I think that's probably what the Vikings will evaluate too. Is what we've paid him and what we've gotten out of him. They've paid him more than enough. I don't know if that's worth a gamble for next year. I think ultimately, deep down they want to keep him, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And I think they're smart enough to figure that out.
So more on that probably it'll break during our podcast in 2 weeks. Next week will be Lounge 208, 209, 208. And we'll see you next week. We'll know the Summer League tournament, and we'll talk more basketball. Stacking. Charlie vows to... What is this? What is this? Is that you? That's you. It's not me. That ain't me.
It ain't me.
Maybe it's somebody else. Next week we'll see ya. More basketball talk. Summer League will know about it. And we're looking at 2 weeks. 2 weeks in Sioux Falls. So Chinese, get it ready. A nice, spiffy 42-minute edition of the Lounge.
Keep it tight. Keep it tight.